Hey everyone! 4 months ago, I told you the Google Pixel 10 might be the phone that makes iPhone users switch to Android. I called it incredible value, praised the cameras, and hyped up those AI features. Well, it's been 4 months of daily use, and I need to give you the real talk. Because the honeymoon phase is over and some cracks are starting to show. This isn't going to be your typical glowing Pixel review. I'm going to tell you what's still great, what's gotten worse, and whether I'd still recommend this phone today. Let's get into it. So here's the thing. After 4 months with the Pixel 10, the community is pretty divided. A lot of people, myself included, are still really happy with this phone. But there's a growing number of users reporting some concerning issues that Google needs to address. I'm going to break this down into what's still excellent, what's gotten frustrating, and the deal breakers that might make you reconsider. Because if you're about to drop $800 to $900 on this phone, you deserve to know the full story. Let's start with the good news because there's plenty of it. The camera is still absolutely phenomenal. 4 months in, this is the part of the Pixel 10 that continues to impress me every single day. Night sight remains undefeated. I'm talking about shots in near darkness that look like they were taken in daylight. No other phone comes close to what Google's doing with computational photography here. That 5x telephoto lens is still a game changer for the base model, and I use it constantly. The software experience is also genuinely great. Android 16's Material 3 expressive UI dropped recently, and it's beautiful. Everything feels more cohesive, more polished. The customization options are fantastic. You can theme literally everything to match your wallpaper. The AI features, particularly Gemini Live, are still light years ahead of what Apple and Samsung are doing. Having real conversations with Gemini, using voice translate on calls, the camera coach suggestions, these features work well and feel genuinely useful, not gimmicky. For day-to-day use, scrolling social media, texting, taking photos, watching videos, the Pixel 10 is still smooth and responsive. Most of the time, this phone does exactly what I need it to do without issues. Okay, now for the not so great stuff. And this is where things get frustrating because these issues weren't present in my initial review. First up, performance and stability. I'm experiencing occasional UI glitches that I didn't see in the first few weeks. Random stutters when switching apps, the occasional app crash, and sometimes the phone just feels sluggish. It's not constant, but it's noticeable enough that it's annoying. Here's something interesting. Several users have reported that doing a factory reset actually improves performance significantly. I haven't done this yet because honestly, I shouldn't have to factory reset a 4-month-old flagship phone to get smooth performance. But if you're experiencing lag, that might be your solution. Battery life is where things get concerning. In my initial review, I said you'd get through a full day with moderate to heavy use. 4 months later, that's become more like moderate use only. The battery just doesn't last as long as it did out of the box. And here's the really worrying part. Some users are reporting significant battery health degradation after just a few months. We're talking battery health dropping to 95% or lower within 4 months, which is way faster than you'd expect from a modern flagship. My battery health is currently at 96%, which isn't terrible, but it's definitely degraded faster than my previous phones. The thing is, battery life was already just okay compared to competitors. The iPhone 16 and Galaxy S25 both outlast the Pixel 10, and that gap is only getting wider as the battery degrades. Now let's talk about the modem issues because this is probably the most frustrating problem. Some users, and I'm one of them, are experiencing random Wi-Fi and 5G signal drops. I'll be in the middle of streaming something and boom, connection lost. Or I'll notice my 5G signal randomly dropping to 4G even though I'm in an area with excellent 5G coverage. This seems to vary by carrier and location, but it's a widespread enough issue that Google really needs to address it with software updates. And so far, they haven't really acknowledged it. The fingerprint reader has also become less consistent. When the phone was new, it was lightning fast. Now, sometimes it works on the first try, sometimes it takes 3 attempts. It's not broken, but it's definitely not as reliable as it was initially. Here's something that's become more apparent over time. The Tensor G5, while good for AI tasks, just doesn't match Snapdragon or Apple Silicon for everyday processing speed. Photo editing is a perfect example. When I'm editing raw photos in Lightroom or Snapseed, there's a noticeable lag compared to when I do the same edits on an iPhone 17 or Galaxy S25. Google optimized this chip for AI workloads, and while that's great for Gemini and computational photography, it means you're making compromises in other areas. Gaming performance performance is also just okay. It'll run most games fine, but you're not getting the highest frame rates, and the phone does get warm during extended sessions, though admittedly, that hasn't gotten worse over time. So what's Google doing about all this? Well, they've been pretty consistent with monthly security patches, which is good, but the major bugs, the modem issues, the UI glitches, the battery optimization problems, those haven't really been addressed in any meaningful way. The thing that frustrates me is that these feel like issues that could be fixed with software updates. The hardware is capable, but Google needs to actually prioritize fixing these problems instead of just pushing new AI features. And here's a question I keep asking myself. Should I have just spent the extra $200 on the Pixel 10 Pro? The Pro has 16 gigabytes of RAM instead of 12 gigabytes, which might help with those performance issues. It has better thermal management. Some Pro users report fewer modem problems, though that's not confirmed. The value proposition that made the Pixel 10 so appealing 4 months ago starts to look different when you factor in these long-term issues. Despite all the issues I've mentioned, I keep coming back to one thing. This camera is still absolutely incredible. 4 months later, the Pixel 10 still takes better photos than any phone in its price range, and in many cases, better than phones that cost significantly more. I was at a concert last week in terrible lighting conditions, and the Pixel 10 absolutely destroyed my friend's iPhone 17 in photo quality. Night sight is magic, that telephoto lens is clutch, and the computational photography just works. If photography is your primary concern, these other issues might be worth tolerating, but that's a big if. Alright, so after 4 months of real-world use, who should actually buy the Pixel 10? You should buy it if you prioritize camera quality above everything else. You want the best AI features on Android. You're okay with good but not great battery life. You're a light to moderate user who won't push the phone hard. You want 7 years of software updates and care about long-term value. You should not buy it if you need reliable connectivity for work or travel. Those modem issues are a deal breaker. You're a power user who needs consistent performance. You game heavily on your phone. You need the absolute best battery life. You want a phone that's going to perform just as well in year 2 as it did on day 1. And honestly, if you're considering the Pixel 10, I'd seriously suggest looking at the Pixel 10 Pro instead. That extra $200 might save you a lot of frustration in the long run. So here's my updated verdict 4 months in. The Google Pixel 10 is a really good phone with some frustrating flaws that have become more apparent over time. If this was my initial review, I probably wouldn't be as enthusiastic as I was 4 months ago. The camera is still best in class, the AI features are genuinely innovative, and the software experience is mostly great. But the performance inconsistencies, battery degradation concerns, and especially those modem issues are hard to overlook. Would I still recommend it? Conditionally. If you got a good deal, if photography is your main priority, and if you're not relying on your phone for mission-critical connectivity, then yeah, it's still a solid choice. But I can no longer say this is an automatic recommendation for everyone. Google needs to step up with software updates that address these issues. And if you're shopping for a phone right now, I'd honestly wait a month or two to see if Google fixes these problems before pulling the trigger. 4 months later, the Pixel 10 is still a good phone, but it's no longer the slam dunk recommendation I thought it was. And that's a shame, because the potential is absolutely there. If you found this long-term review helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more honest tech content, and drop a comment below telling me about your experience with the Pixel 10 if you have one. Have you experienced any of these issues? Let me know. Until next time, peace!